by far have been the hardest person to either just stay connected to. And I think about you. You have no idea how often I think about you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you thanks for reaching out another time. It's been really an exciting and challenging season in so many good ways.
Yeah.
So it's fun to be able to pause and say like, let's talk about it. Let's have a good time together.
Yeah. Well, that's all that this is going to be about. It's just two women just having a conversation. That's really what, just make yourself at home. And, I'm
you don't
really
mind if I like have a little bit of a drink of some sparkling water or something?
Drink, snack, I don't care.
Great.
This is life.
What's funny is, can you hear me okay on this device?
No, you're fine.
Okay, fabulous.
Yeah.
There are some youth above me, so if there is ever a sound of a herd of elephants, that is because joyful things are happening for middle schoolers and high schoolers, and I don't think it'll be too bad.
That's awesome.
Just as things happen, that's
love
part of it.
Love it. And thanks for being here. What are you drinking? What are you drinking?
This one, it looks like this is a kombucha.
I love kombucha. I know. What's your favorite?
It's actually like not too much sugar, but good on flavor. And I'm like, just right.
Yeah. What's your favorite flavor?
I love having an unsweetened iced tea in the summertime. That has been my go-to this summer. In the afternoons, it's like a little bit of iced tea is just lovely.
Yeah, that is funny that you say that, because my husband has gotten very much into like making his own iced tea, cut up the lemons. And for a while he was putting it outside, and then he found out you don't even have to put it outside. So he's been enjoying that. He put mint in the last one. And so it's a whole new thing for him this year.
All sorts of flavor infusions.
Yeah. And back in the day, like we're married almost 30 years. Back in our early years, it used to be like, the store-bought iced tea mix. Right. Mm-hmm. Now he's learned this whole new natural, tea, make your own.
Yep. He's like, and it's fun to have a process. I feel like there's something so cool about ritual where you have something that like it's in the making of it that you're also restored, not just in the receiving of it.
Yeah. Well, do you know, I think it's so funny that you bring that up is because, makes me chuckle. I am not, I'm from Jersey. I grew up at the shore. I don't know gardening. I'm not like the green thumb. I'm lucky I can keep plants in my house, so I don't get into that. But man, I started a small garden like 3 or 4 years ago, my daughter. I love it, but I don't I wouldn't say, oh, I'm so into it. I love going outside and watching. My kids think I'm funny. I love going outside going, oh my gosh, like it grew more, and that vegetable's getting bigger. And I love, right now I'm doing green beans for the first time, and to watch, I feel like I've got Jack and the Beanstalk happening right before my eyes. I'm like, wow, how far will this one? I had tomatoes last year that went over 12 feet in the air. It was the coolest thing to watch. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't say that I know what I'm doing, but it's working.
It seems to be working. And it's like cooperating with something that is independent from you, and that you're like still a part of something bigger, because it's like God's presence and design in like generating life in the world. You're seeing it's so encouraging for me to see that in gardens.
Yeah.
That's something I enjoy. So I'm like, even like you said, you're like, sometimes I feel like I'm just a spectator of what's already unfolding in front of me. Really cool.
For sure. And it's, I'll even go outside, and my husband made a joke, like, do you go outside and talk to your vegetables or sing to them? I'm like, well, I don't sing, but I actually, every morning when I go out, I'm like, good morning, everyone. You look beautiful.
You're like, I'm here to enjoy this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fun. It's fun.
Good.
How's your son? Because last time we met, you were still nursing, right?
Yeah. So, I sometimes just enjoy like morning and evening cuddles, but I have moved to that stage where he's physically able to sustain himself with food and other sources of nourishment. And so, there's a little bit of that chapter where it's like, there's a little stage of a little bit more breathing room. And also,
how's that feel?
So good. I think that one of the things I love about this season is evening walks with a toddler. So summer evenings when he is learning to explore the world, and you just see his responsiveness to and he hears the sound of an airplane and he just pauses and looks up and he's, says hello to it. Just
Oh,
that posture of being receptive to what's happening around him and being sensitive and curious about it is
mm-hmm.
so fun. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, I see a dandelion puff. I'm actually going to pause and touch it and see
Yeah.
what happens when I spread the seeds around.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that mom will care for the weeds later. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's one of the things that I've been working on with myself is paying attention, like in the season of extra pay attention, right? Just coming back to present. And little toddlers do that so well. They're just so hyper focused of what is happening right now. How old is your son?
So my older son is 4 turning 5, and then my younger son he's like almost 18 months.
Oh, it's so cute. 425.
Fun age.
My somewhere in between there, my first grandchild, so my oldest grandson will be 11 this year. Oh gosh, he's going to be 11 this year. And but when he was a toddler and he came and we'd take a walk, talking about taking a walk, we'd take a walk, and he was very much into, put on my rain boots, pounce in the puddles, and he would just be like worm and just like pick up a worm, and just like look at it, and you just watching him look at it and be so curious and in that wonder is so precious. Like those moments of motherhood, to be able to or grandmotherhood, watching that is just so fun because you're just in your moment, and we lose that.
I think that's one of the gifts of being either, a parent or a grandparent or anyone connected to kids.
Yeah.
You're being invited, as much as we're leading and teaching them and helping them to experience the world, we're also being invited to slow down and experience that wonder and presence with them. And so I think that that's one of the reasons why, like for us, we visit we have a little circuit that we've been walking, and he visits, then says hello to the neighbor's cat.
Oh,
and he visits the little goldfish that our other neighbor has in front. And so just these things that he's seeing in the world and being able to say, like, I can touch that. I can say hi to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. And life is just so funny because, to watch seniors, I find seniors get back to sometimes that simplicity. And I think my mom will age like this, where they could just get very present in what they're doing. And their rituals, talk about discipline or rituals. It's like, I have to get out and get she doesn't do this. My mom is still in the very much like, I want to go see the world. So she travels everywhere. But my dad was more like this. He's not as mobile now, but, where it's like, you have to go see this neighbor for the day, take your walk and you say hi to that neighbor and you go do this thing and you go to that thing. And that very much gets them through the day. And so it's just cute to see from early childhood. Then we get so busy to come back to these, as life slows down, back to the simplicity of whatever our ritual is. Sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I very much relate to that. Yeah, as being a pastor who is at an intergenerational church, I see I see that progression and that in some ways the return. Mm-hmm. And it's really endearing to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I wonder that it is a constant invitation. That yes, there's lots of pressures, or there's a tendency to be like, oh, I got to do more and more and more. But there's always an invitation to simplicity and to being present. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's there's a couple thoughts as you said that. I was like, I wonder, I've never thought about this because, you hear often for the elderly, bring them around children. It's so good for them. And, vice versa. You always hear that. And I think generationally, that's always good stuff. But I wonder if it's that they actually both connect with the simplicity of wonder again, like not that everybody's done it all, but you've done your life. I'm talking about seniors, and you just really get into just the simplicity of the moment. You realize that is where the precious moments are. And children just know that, right? They're just so exploratory and they're discovering what the world is. So I wonder if that's actually why they connect so easily.
Yeah. And why it can just be such a delight for everyone.
Yeah. And yet the in between, which is where you and I are, but like the rest of the world, we're just so taught to get out of those moments.
Yeah.
It,
And
it
that is where in some ways ritual or discipline can be a gift to us. Say like,
yeah.
taking that evening walk with a toddler to take out the compost and then walk the block. That is one way to just get off the conveyor belt of, the pace of life that has been prescribed and
Yeah.
to say, there's more. There's
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, there's more. And more doesn't mean more, meaning what we're taught to seek after more isn't always better. It's
Yeah.
last night I was sitting, I came down with like what everybody's going through. A lot of people are going through right now is what the allergies just hit me last night. And I was sitting in my chair and I decided to have a cup of lavender chamomile tea. And my daughter was about to fall asleep and take a nap. She had worked. And it was just like one of those moments where you're like, just need a moment. And I just sat there quietly trying to like unplug from everything and allow myself to be bored and just be in the moment of nothing because I just needed a refresh. And then I had a quick distracting thought. Oh, I wonder if my media team actually got that post out. Let me see which one they posted. And I got on. And then it was like, oh, yeah. And then you get distracted. And literally, it's clear as day. It was like, this is not refreshing you. And I was like, yeah, put it down and be in your quiet moment. Are you going to put this down and feel refreshed? And it's like, well, no. So, we're continually pulled from the simplicity of life, which I think is where we always tend to come back to, right? If you're in this stressful situation, like COVID, everybody kind of, you just retreat. But we have to retreat on the daily of a simple walk, of a simple sit and have a cup of tea, simple sit with your child and
on the daily and even on the seasonally. Like I would say that like as a ministry leader, it's a discipline to take vacation because gosh, there's so much I could do. I could work in my context every day of the year and be exhausted, right? But I could feel the benefit of, a chance to go be with some extended family over the holiday weekend. Yeah. And just what that does to my body and how refreshed I feel coming back. Yeah. Like, wow, that's a gift. There's extra work that it takes to do that. Like, tie up the loose ends, make sure that everything's covered for while you're gone. That's extra work, but it also can be done in a way that creates quite the benefit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How long does it take you? Do you find like when you go away, because moms, we have to do all the things, right? You have to make sure this is taken care of, that's taken care of, everything's good. Okay, we can go. But what I have found in my own life, and I learned this when my kids were earlier, is like going away, when I used to like go away to women's retreats and stuff more often, it's like, okay, my husband's all set up to take care of the kids, each one is all set up. Then I get away and I don't actually start getting present until like 24 hours because I'm like slowly. Are you somebody where you notice it takes a while, or can you just kind of like, nope, done. I'm present right here while I'm away.
Yeah, I think that, I'm nearing like I've been working in ministry for like 15 years now. I'm like, how did that happen so fast? So I think that it has taken practice. I could tell that like I needed to, when I was starting in some of those skills, I needed more transition time. And I think that it also depends on every family unit because my family, my husband's a full-time worker. I'm a full-time worker. Yeah. And we have changed some of our our teamwork for how we go away. So this most recent time, he actually did all the packing and he did some of the things that, other trips I carry that, but this time he did. And so I actually was able to disconnect and just really relax much quicker because cool. My teammate, my partner, my husband had taken on some of the extra load that is sometimes considered hidden work in people's lives. And so, so that was why I would say that this past holiday weekend, I had a very quick downshift. Yeah. And I was staying with family. And honestly, I was surprised at how well I was able to be receptive to just I being a guest in their home and feeling so cared for. Their hospitality was like, oh, wow, what a great, like, what a gift this is.
Yeah.
So I think that sometimes I'm a reluctant leader. Like I was never a firstborn child. So I was the
Oh,
servant, like youngest cousin of the youngest uncles, like, like
okay. Yep.
youngest. So I think that in some ways I am not the person that is like naturally, I'm going to take charge of everything, but I am responsive and understanding of when there's a leadership vacuum. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm perceptive of, oh, no, we need to step in either in, anticipating like we're going to need to step in before that becomes a problem or, uh-oh, this situation needs some leadership. So I would say that that is probably another factor that makes me want be like, oh, when I don't have to be the leader, I feel so fine with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know what? There are some really important things that I have seen that I want to spend my life and my energy and my gifts to cultivate and work towards in the world and in what God's doing in the world. So yeah, so I'm willing to take on some of that mantle of leadership to do that,
Yeah.
even though I was never somebody that aspired to be the leader of the group.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we're actually even going here today because I tell you what, I think of you so often, like really, Dani, more than we actually get to connect because just our emails, we're not connecting and all of that.
Mhm.
But when we first met and talking to you we talked about COVID and what it did, outside the church and inside the church and just how you had to step up as a leader because you're like, this was not your first career. Like you never desired this. And then you found yourself in this leadership. Can you, for the listener, because they don't know that story, but like what
Sure.
you went to school for something and then you thought your life was going to go. Can you like tell that part of the story? Because it
Yeah.
actually is linked to something you just said about I was not the natural born first leader and leadership, but that you moved into this leadership role you didn't even know you were going to step
Yeah, I
into
didn't know I
during
would be
COVID.
capable of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, and really it's a story of being receptive and responsive to, and curious about, hey, God, what are you doing in the world? How do I participate? It's an extension of that whole gardening conversation we had before.
Wow. Yeah.
It's just in my story. So, yeah, my background is that I grew up in Portland area, and then I moved to Salem when I was to become a Willamette student.
Oh, wow.
And I was thinking I was going to be a math teacher, but then I took organic chemistry, and I just loved it. So
Who
I actually
says that?
I know that's it. It was like, ooh, this is a fantastic game. Let's find out how we play this game on the molecular level of making things, how do things work together? Yeah. Oh, it's so much fun. If I was a chemistry tutor for a couple of years after college, and you can tell the enthusiasm is still there.
Yeah.
I still love chemistry. And what's great is that I got to do all kinds of things while studying chemistry. Like I ended up traveling to Stanford's Linear Accelerator Center. And like, I worked as an intern up at OHSU in their environmental chemistry division. And wow. That's where I started a project that eventually got published and kind of handed it off to some grad students that continued the work there. But in that time, I really, I hadn't even graduated chemistry, but I discovered that I could be really good at chemistry and that it could leave my soul really wanting. Like that summer that I was working at OHSU, like I feel like I was very accomplished. I was good at what I was doing, but I looked around and I was like, I don't think this is the life I want to lead. Like, wow. This would become isolation and depression for me. Like not for everybody. Some people thrive in that environment. Yeah. But I just had this sense of saying like, just because you're good at something doesn't mean it is like the gift that you want, that what you want to spend your life doing. And so I feel like I'd been on this like conveyor belt of success, and I finished my chemistry degree and got published and all of that. But I had a moment where I stepped off that conveyor belt and I said,
Wow.
God, I'm stepping into the unknown. I'm going to become a ministry intern for a college ministry and learn how to raise my own support and,
Wow.
and take a year to listen and discover what's inside of me that I could bring to the world. And so through that, I took a part-time job working at a local church because they needed a childcare person. And I just was coordinating some childcare for them in their Mothers of Preschool program. And when they saw me working, they were like, do you need more work hours? And I was like, well, yeah, I could pick up a couple extra hours. So I became an admin, and that was here at Court Street.
Wow.
Just in my young 20s, I stumbled into this church that I could walk to from college. There weren't a whole lot of Christians in my university, so I walked to church and 5 blocks away and got connected here. And then, fast forward a couple years, I've became the children's pastor, continued some studies and work for that, and became ordained. And then I was an associate pastor for some years of transition in the church's leadership. And now I am we joke about calling me the administrative octopus, but I'm the executive pastor of operations and administration.
Wow.
And I do all kinds of things, from budget meetings to facilities to sprinklers, irrigation. I mean, you name it. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And it was during COVID that there was like a transition, or like most companies and churches, just any organization was really getting hit, right? Everybody had to be at home, or some churches did stay open, but that stuff shifted for you a bit. Yeah. What I love about your story, you just was like, something has to get done. And once again, you just kind of stepped into something that just needed to happen.
Definitely. Yes. I think that one of the things that's special in my story is I've worked very closely with a couple of pastors who have experienced burnout. Yeah. And I just have so much compassion for what that is, and that's like both a organizational systemic problem as well as like the individual, like it's an intersection.
Yes.
of factors. It's a very complicated thing that leads to that. And so being somebody that walked alongside people who exited ministry because of burnout, I think that one of the things I said, like, wow, we're in a system that is contributing to we need to create well-being. We need to do work that creates that while doing it, we as the workers are receiving the thing that we are also wanting to give to others.
Yeah.
So and that is like the love of Christ, the peace, the joy, like all those fruits of the Spirit that the Holy Spirit wants to cultivate in us. We're like, what would it look like to embody that while we offer that to the world through Christ? So I mean, I was in the nitty gritty, recognizing what needed to change, like organizationally. I helped teamed up with our interim lead pastor through a leadership transition, and we navigated a significant financial change that was like a 20% reduction in staff hours and compensation. And so choosing, how do we do something like that in a way that really loves and honors people? And those were things that, like, you don't usually want to like sign up for like, hey, I'll be the person that leads a church through crisis. Yes. That's not usually what people sign up for. Yeah. But when you see for me, that's in the moment, you don't even think of it as that. You're saying, like, what is the next step that I can do to steward this beautiful congregation and this facility that God has placed here for over 100 years. And I don't think that God wants this to end. There's so much good here that, like, we need to be healers of this place. And so, so I just kept doing the next thing that God would put in front of me. Mm-hmm. And then, here we are.
Well, and yesterday, when I was recording with a couple of friends, we talked a lot about it. Really turned into talking about courage,
Mm-hmm.
and for that one, it was about like personal brand. A lot of people talk about branding in companies, but personal brand meaning like just they were talking about core values, and just it kind of fell into that kind of category. And it was interesting as I then thought about coming on with you today. I was like, wow, you you have lived so much of what we talked about yesterday, and you are that person. It's just integrity. I wound up talking about how my heart cry when I was like rebuilding my life with the Lord was really what I learned about like all my unhealthy habits and all the ways in which I was just a total mess really came down to this one thing: is I lacked integrity, meaning my inside and my outside didn't line up very well. And the more I worked on getting my inside and outside lined up,
Mm-hmm.
everything started to fall into place. And we make it harder than it has to be. But it was just like, if I say this is important to me, I got to follow through on what's important, not just say, yeah, I believe those things, or yeah, I think that, or yes, that's what I want for my life. So, okay, you got to do it. Right. So it was a season of my life where I started, and it clicked with me. It's like, wow, that actually is what my heart was longing for, is to be a person of integrity. And integrity is a really big deal for me. So much so I have this quote on my desk that I took when I went to go visit Israel, but it says, and I don't know, who wrote it or anything, but it says, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. Right. It's like what you see, what you're doing and what you're saying, like that internal and external. It's like integrity is everything. Just do what you say. And I think of you actually more than anybody that I've met, just even being here in Salem, of somebody who is so walks out, and we don't even know each other all that much, but you so impacted me when I see people who actually do this. I just really respect you. And I'm so thankful that you're a leader in our community, because you actually walked out. That story you told me about being in church, I mean, like we had to do the very thing we're asking who we were leading. The staff were part of, the people were over. You and the other pastor, you actually had to walk that out, and you did. And I was just like, that's the real deal. And those are the people I want to, be learning from and be walking side by side.
Yeah, that we can be learning that together. I think that I love that you said the word integrity, because I know what it's like to kind of be in sometimes leaders have this temptation to have like a public face.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of private. And that really creates all kinds of problems, right? And so I think that for me, I'm really grateful that I was led by people who were valued authenticity and who even allowed me to admit when I was like making a mistake or something. And that vulnerability is just something that maybe I learned it from my parents. I'm not sure, but I think that like practicing the ability to tell somebody like, this is what I hope for or I want in this relationship that I'm with, that just builds so much trust and it invites that same response and that mutuality where we can just be honest with like, this is where we're at. You know exactly what you can expect from me. I don't have all the answers.
Yes.
But I am willing, but I have these values that I'm going to stay true to and honor you as my fellow human as we do this together. And I think that, it's what an adventure to like learn how to live that way. But
well, I think that's the journey of life, right? It's just that because it is this, if I look back on my own journey and even today, and I think social media makes it even harder. It really puts it in your face to have that public face and have the private face. And I really long to always be, I'm a full believer. You cannot give what you don't have. So walk out what you have. Don't try to pretend what you don't have, because eventually it does catch up. Somebody will call you out on something, or it creates such this big space in between what people think you are and who you really are. And the fall is just even greater. And, because there's that pressure to keep that up. And if it's not the real deal, you just get more and more vulnerable. And you could only hold that up before things begin to crash. No matter what it is, whether it be you're just pretending you know more than you do, or you're in a sin that's really you're gonna crash and burn. If I could just say it that way. And so the more I think we create places and spaces to just be real, and it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right?
I feel really grateful right now that I have some neighbors, like physical neighbors near my house, where we can go knock on each other's doors in our pajamas and say, like, can I have a hug? Like,
Yep.
I just had a really hard work day or something like
That's
that.
so
And
good.
like that kind of I remember when some of them moved in and they were, they usually like, oh, I have new neighbors. Like I want to make a good impression. Like, how do I connect with them? And what someone once taught me is that sometimes you can set, it's like being a thermostat that sets the temperature instead of just a thermometer that responds to it. And the idea
Absolutely.
of like, I'm going to embody what what I would hope to receive. And so being able to be the first one to be vulnerable with my neighbors and how that opened the door to
Yeah.
say like, oh, they have needs too. That Daly family, they're fun, they're doing their best, and gosh, sometimes they forget something on the grocery list.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes Dani just doesn't have it all together. That's okay.
Yep.
And so we can do that. We can be there for each other in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you think, I feel like I have spent, and I know you get this because you're in ministry, a lot of people have walked away from church. They don't want to come back, especially since COVID. I don't, just the way people have responded. A lot of people are like, I just don't want anything to do with it anymore. And they can't separate church with a lot of people who are imperfect and they're human, and really God, who is, head of the church, and it's his family, and his family is a mess without him. And a lot of people have walked away and don't want anything to do with. And I find that I've had to say to a lot of people whose hearts have been broken due to hurts, just, I'm really sorry as a leader.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry that has happened to you. But my question to you is, because we're talking integrity and leadership, what do you think needs to change as far as, because it happens in business, but since you're a ministry, I want to kind of focus on the church itself.
Sure.
And that leadership. Where do you think, you talked about earlier, creating a place where the leaders can, like, the well-being we say we want for people, we need to live.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh yeah.
Can you talk into that? Like, where do you think? Because I think this is what I say to people. It's like, gosh, you hear leaders that fall, and you hear the crowd just going, see those Christians, and almost like cheering that another one has fallen, and see how all Christians are bad. And it's like, what you don't realize is these are just human beings who have issues just like everybody else. And man, I wish we wouldn't cheer when, no matter who it is, inside, outside the church, falls, just to go, man, no one's exempt. Could happen to any of us if we're not preventative and take care of our own well-being, because we all can have integrity issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm just curious what you would have to say.
Yeah. Like, I would say, I think that as a leader, I think that humble posture of like, man, that could happen to me.
Yeah.
That is the thing that I want to just have open hands to say, like, God, those Psalms that say, God, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. Like, help me to transform and become the kind of leader that will be planted in a spot that will help sustain and create flourishing for other humans.
Yeah.
And that, like a tree rooted by a stream of water, that it would become an ecosystem of love that honors, that shows, it's like a glimpse of Eden in that way. And so, I think that when I've seen leaders who discover that there's some sort of crack in the foundation, or there's something where their humanity is showing, right? I
Absolutely.
appreciate what you shared about as a compassionate response, because I think that, yeah, there's always going to be people that are personally really affected
Yeah. Hurts
by
many.
that. And I think that as somebody who's walked with many ministry leaders, I cannot say how tragic it feels to me to have, when somebody says the term fall or something, I was like, oh, I wish I could communicate like the visceral response of compassion I feel
Yep.
for saying like, I don't know what was going on there. And that's the story. The choices we make, even privately, have such public implications
Yeah.
that, oh, that's something that we're all going to feel or be affected by. And I think that's one of the things that you're kind of identifying, is that even if there's somebody who is in ministry, and there's some sort of problem or story, it has this like ripple effect nowadays
Always.
around the world, because communication travels really fast.
Yeah.
Thank you, technology. And
Yeah.
like we all feel this it wasn't supposed to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's up, I don't have all the answers for that, but
Yeah.
what I choose to do is I choose to lean into compassion and
Yeah.
wisdom, and just say, God, would you please transform this pain that I'm feeling into wisdom and clarity? Like, would you transform the difficulty that I'm witnessing because of somebody's choices? Would you help me to say, what do I need to do when I'm in that moment? Help me to have the sight, the vision to identify when it's my turn to make a choice that creates a little bit more Eden, or a little slice of heaven here on earth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I hear, another one. I mean, it's usually the headline. Another one fell. A pastor steps down, or a leader, is caught in whatever. My heart always goes out, because I started a women's ministry, a women's group. My heart was like, where's the safe place here? Where's the safe place to go? I'm not well. And if you can't be vulnerable and really, here is me, and take off all the masks that like go back to what we just started this episode with, is like, if you can't just say, here's where I'm at, and I'm struggling right now in this. If you can't do that in church, where can you do that? That is what I believe. Like, that to me is heaven, because if you can't just go, man, I'm in this deep struggle, and be vulnerable to your core, and have people go, I hear you, I see you.
And I'm not
I don't
gonna
have the answers.
And I'm not going to meet you with condemnation in that moment.
And here's what you got to do.
Yeah. And you have a safe place to be vulnerable. And I think I have that as a leader. I think that one of the things that helped me lead through really challenging times is finding and cultivating more of that. Because what I've noticed is that the more that leaders feel isolated, the more that starts like almost like a problem spiral, where you kind of create then an echo chamber of just what you reinforcing your perception, instead of opening yourself up to say like, okay, no, I need to be vulnerable. I need to hear from others. I need to be able to acknowledge my shortcomings and be encouraged by others to aspire to something more, and have my aim is not my ego, like there's so much more. So I think that's a beautiful invitation to anybody that's in any leadership context. And for me, there's like a local organization, Salem Leadership Foundation, had been a really amazing source of really, I felt like I knew that I was next in line for burnout. I was like, I've seen this system kind of start like going down the line of pastors, and it's either going to be me next, or we're going to change things, and we're going to hopefully end a cycle, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you end a cycle? How do you get out of something where you're like, oh no, I have problems. I would perpetuate this burnout. I would perpetuate the problem that would cause unhealth for others. And so having a community where I could be vulnerable and leaders that I could go to and just be like, oh, this is what's going on. Mm-hmm. Counselors, gotta love therapists. Thank you for their hard work, and like trustworthy ones that are disconnected enough to give some good perspective. Like I have a counselor that is not in Salem, because I love Salem and it's such a small world.
Yeah.
I just need somebody that's a little bit removed.
Yep. Yeah.
That helps me process. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I think, we're talking about in the church. I think whether you're in the church or out of the church, I just think for people, and I think this, like when you find people are isolating or in depression, and I don't mean clinical depression, I just mean people are carrying such a heavy weight of the things they feel like, where's the safe place? Because if you knew what I was carrying, I've had leaders pull me aside and go, I know I need your group, but I cannot let people know what's happening in my marriage or my life. I'm a leader, and I just go, this is sad, because we cannot give what we don't have. And you need some TLC so that you can, continue to grow and then pour out into others. And parents, same thing. It's like, I don't have time to take care of me. It's like, no, the greatest thing we could do for our kids, for our marriage, for the community, for our work, for whatever, is just to go time out. Like I'm reaching burnout. Something's got to give. And I wish there was more preventative care.
Yeah,
go ahead, tell me
about that. I was kind of the breadwinner for our family for a chapter. After my husband and I got married, he was finishing grad school, and grad school was something that really, really pushed him into a place where he's like, oh, this is not good. This is not my best self. And what I wish that more people had the courage or the freedom, really, the sense of freedom from other people's expectations, freedom from even my my original idea of what life would look like. Oh, yeah. I can make a change that will be for my best self, or like to be able to become the person I want to be. And my husband took a job that was not in his degree after going through grad school, getting a doctorate. And I kind of called it his recovery job. And I was like, my prediction was that it would be for 2 years. It provided for our needs. It used a lot of his skills, but it wasn't in his like studies. Yeah. It wasn't using that necessarily. And you know what? It was almost like a time clock, like at 2 years.
Wow.
All of a sudden he was like, you know what? I feel a lot better. I think I'm ready for a new challenge. Like I'm ready. And a 2-year like recovery journey. I think that our work can be the thing that burns us out. Yeah. And our work can also God provided the right opportunity for him where he had a restorative work experience. Wow. And then now he actually is doing work in his, original hopes and dreams type category. Wow. He has something to give. He is creating, he actually works at my alma mater, Willamette University, as music department program manager. So he's got some teaching that he does with students and the administration of the whole department. Wow. That he works with the department chair, and to see like what he is building. He has something to contribute because he really took 2 years to say like, I don't got it right now. I need something out. And we grew our family, and he was like, parenting is a big challenge. Like what would be something that meets my needs and gives me breathing room and space to process the degree I've accomplished, the parenting changes I'm navigating, the marriage that I want to keep alive, keep vibrant while navigating all of this. Like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there have been a couple of friends that I have at times been really direct with to say like, man, I can see that your job is taking you down, and I'm not going to prescribe anything,
Yeah.
but I do want to give you hope that it is a dignified choice to say, I don't want this to take me down.
Yeah.
I can make a change. People will have their opinions, and like people will have to process that. But if you make that choice with integrity, listening to yourself, then people really respect it.
Mm-hmm.
And then something good comes on the other side. And so you've said, one of the things you've said in this podcast is like, man, how do we line up our inside and our outside? It takes courage to listen to yourself.
Absolutely.
I think as a pastor, I often see people that are kind of diminishing their own internal voices.
Yep.
Maybe they've come from a spiritual tradition where they should only listen to what God is, and they don't know what God's saying. So you're like, well, they can kind of get paralyzed with that.
Yep.
And really, God gave us our inside voices to say, what's going on in here? And that's where the conversation with the Holy Spirit can really have some good work. And so, yes, we listen to ourselves. We listen to the people around us. We listen to God. Absolutely. I know that not all of your audience that applies to. That's okay.
Yeah.
But just that's the context I'm coming from. And
Absolutely.
Any leader, if you've got something inside you that's whispering, then that's something you should pay attention to.
Yeah.
I think that it is attention. It deserves your attention. And if you are willing to be curious about it instead of judge it, then you can bring it into the light and bring it into a safe place with other people. And there's some hope of good things that can come from that.
Yeah, I love that. I find it's interesting you say many people don't listen to that whisper, that their own voice. It's about, a year and a half ago at this point, I did another podcast I was doing. I call it Self-Care Island. My girlfriend and I were talking as one of my accountability partners, and we were going back and forth, and we were joking about ourselves, about how we're not doing this self-care so good, and how we can diminish our own voice, and how we're like, yeah, come on over here to Self-Care Island and sit with us while we learn how to take better care of ourselves. We were kind of joking as girlfriends do. And it became this joke, but it was a serious conversation about, no, seriously. Okay, all jokes aside, as accountability partners, where are we failing ourselves? Because in the process, since turning 50, I made this promise to myself. I wanted to learn, it's like a child, how do you become your own best friend? Like little kids. Yeah, you want to be my best friend? And we're like, I could be your best friend and your best friend, but we're never really taught. I mean, think about it. Were you ever taught, hey, you really have to become your own best friend? No, the voice that we often hear is that critical. What are you doing? You can't do that good enough. You're too skinny, too fat, too whatever. And trying to fit into a world of being anything other than your authentic self, right? Is many people's stories, right? It's the world that we live in. And so we don't necessarily learn that. And yet what often we need to hear, and it just, gosh, I hope it happens for women earlier, but now that I'm in my 50s, I talk to a lot of women in their 50s, and they're like, you know what? I'm in that season right now, learning how to do that better, learning how not to go. This is the revelation I had. Wow, the one voice that I don't ever listen to is my very own, when it's screaming, I need a little rest. I need care here. And I go, shh, I hear you. Don't have time to hear you right now. I've got to take care of this voice and that person and this person and that expectation and all these things, until the voice goes, all right, we're done. We're done.
If you ignore that voice too long, it does not lead to good things.
Yeah.
It will lead to either snapping out at the people you love.
Yes.
It will lead to just like collapsing
Health.
on the couch and health problems. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Burnout.
Like,
you feel depressed, your body will shut down.
Yeah, that was one of the major gifts that in my early years working at this church that I learned from other leaders, is that like they wanted me to not just lead based on pleasing other people or what other people's expectations were. They were like encouraging me to hear what my own voice was and have the courage to bring that to the table. Yeah. And then what's really beautiful is that if I hadn't been practicing that as a young leader, I wouldn't. I mean, that's what helped navigate our church through the challenges that we faced. And, there have been times that that internal voice in me was like, you need to start that difficult conversation with somebody, because if you ignore it, it will get worse.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, who wants to start a difficult conversation? But when I listen to it and I really think about it and I consider the other person, I'm like, I can come with open hands right now and have a constructive, vulnerable conversation instead of something that is combative and will tear us apart.
Yeah.
Man, I care about this other person. I am going to embody love by just connecting about something that could be, it's a risk, but I'm willing to take that risk out of love. And so, listening to that little voice, it has the ripple for it. It's hugely important for our self-care. And it also is hugely important for all the relational contexts that we're in, whether it's at home, whether it's at work. Yeah. I mean, even last night I had a sweet moment where I was like being really patient with my 4-year-old son. He was having trouble eating his chicken bites at dinner, man. It's a real struggle sometimes at 4 years old.
That's right.
And we were sitting there really patiently. And, 4-year-olds sometimes try out language that they hear in other contexts.
Yeah.
And he said something to me that I was like, I am not going to be able to respond positively right now. I think I'm going to tap out and let my partner take this one.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was actually a beautiful choice that because I listened to that and said,
That's so great.
I am not the right person to respond to that. He needs a third party to coach him through how he just talked to his mama. So I voiced my boundaries and took care of myself. And, I took our little guy outside for our toddler walk, right? Full circle in our conversation, back to the toddler walks.
Yeah.
And then my husband, in about 10 or 15 minutes later, he and my 4-year-old came out, and my 4-year-old, he had been able to just talk to my 4-year-old, and he apologized, and we had a great evening the rest of the time.
That's great.
So it's like that little voice that's saying, what do I need to do? And also, what's not mine to do?
Yep.
It is
huge.
not mine. Yeah, that is really an important thing. Mm-hmm. And I think my whole life I'll be learning boundaries. I'm like, man,
I think it's never ending.
Oh yeah. And but there are little moments like that where I'm like, I can trust the people around me. I can say I've hit my limit. I do not have patience to navigate this one. Somebody else.
Well, and don't you, to circle back to, you said it, you talked about having a hard conversation, starting that conversation and connecting and being vulnerable. How do you even just start it? And some of the worry and where people can stress and then just silence their own voice, they'll go, I know where it's going to go. I don't know what they're going to say. They're going to reject it. They're not going to, whatever those negative responses we project into the future of what we think is going to happen. That may happen, but it may not. But if it does, even when they don't respond or take it the way I was hoping, don't you find that even in those moments you could still, because you allowed yourself to get vulnerable and be real and authentic with sharing your heart, you could look yourself in the mirror and go, I was true to myself and I did it in a way that was honoring and respectful. And
yeah.
It could hurt that maybe it didn't go the way you wanted, but at least you can still, your inside and outside is still lining up to say, no, I was true to what I felt like I was supposed to share.
Yeah. Oh man. So I think that because I have so many stories, right, of this sort of thing. I think that when people start predicting the future, and that becomes the obstacle to starting the conversation, I wish that we had the skills to question our assumptions. Like you were saying, that may happen. That's completely valid. Your brain is trying to predict the future based on all of your past experiences. And that's how our brain protects us. Yeah. Like that has some good positive skills or like benefits for our bodies and for our lives. But it can also take the wheel, like take over.
It's the biggest hindrance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I think that if we could be listening to ourselves to say, almost like a conversation within yourself to say, yeah, you're right. that's possible. Okay, so what could I do that could help them feel a little bit more peace as we entered that conversation? What could change that outcome? And that curiosity of questioning the assumption has been the thing as a leader that has given me the confidence, and that I've been studying humans all my whole life, right? We're all learning from our experiences. And I think that I have been gradually learning how to enter into emotionally heightened conversations in ways that give people a sense of like, I can exhale and have a productive conversation here, even though we are all very invested in the outcome or the process that we're entering into. So I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot of good things we can talk about there. Questioning your assumptions and knowing like, that is one possible path for predicting the future. But also by my leadership and by my presence, I can show up in a way that changes the course of the future.
That's right.
That is a very hopeful reality. And it is something that we can practice skills so that the people around us benefit from how we show up.
Absolutely.
Isn't that cool?
Yes. And you almost have to put your student cap on before you go into one, so that you always stay curious. You always stay, because really the only person that we can actually change or have any control over is us as we enter. And being able to learn, I'm learning, I wish I would have learned this earlier, but I'm learning it as I get older and older, is to stay in a circle, even if it's just my spouse and I, or my child and I, or my friend and I, and there's nobody else, or whether it's a huge group of people, is to be able to stand with others. And even if we're not on the same page, to go, it's okay. Where you are is okay. And where I am is okay. And to be okay when that doesn't necessarily match, and not have to have the answer, and not have to be to try to figure it out, and just let it be. And it's never as bad as we think it's going to be. We just project it a lot of times because we're like, he's always acted like this, or whatever. And it's just like, no, just can we enter without trying to change the other, and just sit in this. It might feel uncomfortable for a little bit, but it may not turn out as bad as you are thinking it's going to turn out. We don't have to come with our fists up internally.
Yeah. And what if we could even start the conversation by saying something like, I really want to be connected to you, and I'm feeling that we're coming at this at different angles. So I want to hear how you're feeling about that, or where, there are ways to learn to start the conversation so that you even acknowledge that intention, and that we're different and we want to be connected as humans. How do we do it? Let's find a way together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's that little chemistry student in you. You're just trying to, that's so cute. You see that woven into everything that you say. It's like just this curiosity. Okay. So to wrap this up for today, I'm curious, because this question that I asked you from the early, when you talked about you being you learned you're really good at chemistry, and then you got into that first role using that skill, but you were really great at it, and you could have had probably a good career doing something you find super fascinating. How do you step out of, because here's another thing. Once you get my age, and I'm in circles with a lot of women and men our age, where they have lived their entire career doing something they knew they went to school for, and you should use your degree, or they're good at it, maybe even great at it, but they just don't come alive. It's just it's okay. I know I'm good at it. People are longing to feel alive and do something that makes them feel alive. And I have to be honest, for mine, I hear a lot of people talk about the sweet spot, and where you just lose, I know this is where I'm good. You were good at chemistry, but you knew that wasn't where you're supposed to stay. I find where I almost feel it kind of goes against what a lot of circles talk about, is I find that where I notice God can use me a lot, and where I notice I struggle sometimes the most, and where he continues to say, my grace is enough, put your pen down, basically, is writing. And I wouldn't tell you, that's not my natural gift. But for you, you stepped away from something that was your natural gift, or something that you're good at, to step into something else that sounds like is more fulfilling and makes you come alive more, even though you use chemistry, I think, in everything you're doing. So what would you say to people, whether they're 50s or like still young, early in their career? How would you encourage somebody to do what you did if they're feeling like you felt?
Oh yeah. Or even somebody that is like, I'm coming to the end of my tenure here in this job and I need a recovery job. Where do I
Yeah,
begin? Like how intimidating that would be to be
sure.
like, where do I go from here? So I would say first, the thing to acknowledge is that like I was in my young 20s when I had the big pivot, right? So that's a very fluid, that's an age where you're very adaptable and can make some changes and take some different risks.
Yeah.
When, I have a lot of compassion for somebody who's like, I've established this livelihood. How do I can't do what I live the life that relies on this livelihood without it. What do I do?
Yeah.
That change? And some of those I don't have answers for, but I do think that the thing that I've learned from my story is that the thought processes and the thinking that I practiced in chemistry is what translates so well to what I do now. And that is kind of like my secret superpower in my new context, is that, like, let's be honest, like church leaders are not trained with the scientific method, right? That's not a usual combo.
Yep.
So the idea of like observation, experimentation, defining clearly what you need for a project, and then being able to like encapsulate how to do it so that you could hand it off to somebody. Like the whole idea of a chemistry lab notebook is you hand it off to somebody and they can do the exact same experiment and you get the exact same results because it's honoring that scientific method. So,
Wow.
So that thinking that what I was trained in is what enriches my current context. So I would say, yeah, instead of necessarily focusing on the object of your work, what are the skills that have been cultivated from that amazing legacy?
Yeah.
Because whatever you've been doing for the last 2 decades, 3 decades, more than that, that can be really valuable experience. And there are some surprising ways that will enrich the world and create that fulfillment potentially. So I think of like the stories of a mom who was doing homeschooling for her years, and now she is actually our financial administrator, and she is just like learned how to be a single mom and manage finances with 4 kids, and now she's like, guess what? A church? Oh yeah, actually I can learn the skills to. I'm snapping my fingers because she's so fast, right?
Yeah.
She's just like, I got this down. So it's really fun to see that new surprising context for her many cultivated skills to shine. That. And I think of my husband, and I think of how he actually didn't fully notice that his graduate studies cultivated administrative skills in him. And then he went into like the working world, and he was like, whoa, I have more to offer than I knew. Like, I didn't know this would be so valuable. And so like listening, I'd kind of seen it coming, that I was like, you're a great teacher and you're a great administrator. That's a win-win in that context. So it's just fun to see. I think that listening to the people around us to see what are the skills that we're bringing to the table, what are we best at, and then, I mean, for me personally, I could pigeonhole myself. Sometimes I get afraid that who's going to hire a pastor after, if I don't want to work at a church after this, what do I do? And networking with like Salem Leadership Foundation and other nonprofits here in Salem has really diminished that fear, even for me personally, to be like, I'm cultivating some skills here that maybe would enrich some other contexts. And I have the luxury of bumping shoulders with some of those people to start that imaginative process for myself. Not that that's what I'm interested in right now, but I hope that would be encouraging to other people, that it's not that the skills they're cultivating really do have some surprising like cross pollination.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you do something totally different, because I think sometimes at this age, people are stepping out of one career, maybe retiring, those who retire even like earlier. There's this curious, like, I'm not done. I don't want to sit on a couch. I don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody wants to just do that when they retire. And so it's giving yourself permission, I think, to go, I'm kind of curious about trying this, and it's
Yeah.
okay. Just do it.
And in the 20s, there's almost like this assumption that you're exploring the world and discovering who you are. And I don't think that ever stops, really.
Yeah,
like,
it
I
shouldn't.
think that everybody has permission to say, like, I'm going to discover something new in myself, whichever decade I'm in. And I'm willing to take a risk to try it in a new context and
Mm-hmm.
start small, potentially, even just with volunteering. But it's like, you never know where it leads.
Yeah. I think the people who keep that mindset age the best. They age well, if I could say it that way. And I say it, my grandfather, lived into his late 90s. My mom she's 75. And just 5 years ago was like, I really want to travel, but I still, she still needed to work. And so she now works up in way, way North Alaska for like 7 months out of the year and doing stuff she loves and outdoor. She just like went all in. And she always has this curiosity, almost like a child, but like there's a world out there and just curious. Mm-hmm. But I think those kind of people, like you have that same mindset. It's just those type of people, as I watch my mom, and she's like her dad, they just age really well, as opposed to like, this is retirement and when's dinner? Like it's just, we could either get into a bubble or we stay exploring. So
holding on to the curiosity,
yeah,
no matter what age you are.
Childlike.
Yeah, being curious about ourselves and being curious about all the things that are beyond ourselves too.
Yeah.
That's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so I guess to wrap it up, you guys go out and just explore, discover, try new things, and don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Dani Daly's words.
Right? Yes. Thank you so much for being able to talk today. This is really fun.
Well, we'll have to do this again. I feel like I could talk to you forever. I just adore you. So thanks for being on, and thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.